Chapter 98. A gentleman like Jade, different from the rest. Sanchi shuddered and looked around. This was a graveyard. How could there be a manor or a beauty? Wang Hu, he shouted. Pft. The paper house under the stone tablet burned. Many paper effigies inside swayed in the fire. On it were the written numbers, 1 to 49. He had seen some of the paper effigies yesterday, and they served him yesterday. At this moment, they were reduced to ashes by the fire as they all appeared to be smiling strangely. I actually didn't manage to realize what was happening all along. This woman's nomological power is so deep. Sanchi was silent. He once thought that he had seen through all of this, but in fact, she was just letting him spy on her. At this moment, a gentle voice sounded, "Young master, there's no need to panic. This is something made by the paper cutters. It's burned for the dead as a ritual of respect. During this period of time, we use the yin qi in the tomb to conceal our and temporarily stayed here. Now that we've returned the favor to the Huang family, we've left." Sanchi was speechless. "Did you leave a voice note behind, or are you talking in real time?" "I'm speaking to you in real time. Does the young master have anything to say to Heu?" Huan Heu smiled. "Did you sleep with him?" Sanchi asked awkwardly. "Young master, if you think I did, then I did." Huan Heu sounded like she was teasing him. Sanchi's face twitched. "Where do you live? I have to sleep with you once more." Her. "Young master, have you gotten addicted to it?" Unfortunately, the divine power of the technique, a dream of the golden millet, consumes a lot of nomological power. I can't use it too much. Young master, you should work hard to cultivate this technique. Huan Heu's voice gradually weakened. It was obvious that after the origami paper was burned completely, she would stop speaking. A dream of the golden millet. What an interesting divine power. Sanchi stroked his chin. His interest peaked. That's right, a dream of the golden millet. One dream can kill or awaken a person. In the dream, one can comprehend the truth of the world. Unfortunately, he used cultivation and is shallow, so the power of this divine power she cast is limited. However, the young master has managed to obtain quite a lot of benefits in the dream. It can be seen that his aptitude is very outstanding. Huan Heu's voice became weaker and weaker as she said, "The power of the origami paper is about to be exhausted. Young master, we'll meet again in the future. We'll meet again if fate allows it." Sanchi's interest was piqued when he heard that. "Wait, who's the origami artist? I'll study his skill one day and cut myself a paper doll wife. It was cut by the paper cutter, Granny Cat, but this skill is clean. Young master, you're cultivating the Yan Dao path, so it's better not to touch it." Before she could finish his sentence, Huan Heu's voice stopped abruptly. Sanchi watched as the paper was reduced to ashes and felt a little disappointed. "So you mean to say that since I'm walking on the Yan Dao pathway and your pathway is a single plank bridge?" Arwa faded, Hisma dampened a little. It was not that he liked the other party, but he felt that this demon spirit that he had encountered was very unique and he wanted to make friends with her. Well, he didn't mind having more friends like that. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew past and the hot ashes rolled up with the breeze willingly, as if they couldn't bear to leave Sanchi behind. Sanchi looked at the stone tablet. The words Huan Zhangyu were engraved on it. There was also a line of beautiful words beside it. "This gentleman is like Jade, different from the rest." Huan Heu's human name was probably based on this sentence. On the thunderous night when the sky raged, this sentence was among the many that this scholar had recited. He saw some grass growing on the grave. It was still green under the autumn wind. They should have been dead for a while. In that case, Silkworm Village was infected with the plague much earlier than Silken City. His face twitched. Good lord, did this mean that she slept with him when she was visiting this person's tomb? That's too embarrassing. I can't tell anyone else about this. There was a hint of relaxation on their faces. Although the autumn wind was a little cold, perhaps because the protein content of the insects was relatively high, these people's faces had a trace of redness to them. He also understood why Huan Heu wanted to feed these people bugs. This was a graveyard, and there was no food at all. Although insects are a little disgusting, this demon is still better than most people. For example, me. I don't have such a kind heart. Sanchi muttered as he looked at the solo refugees. He touched his storage bag, took out a few pieces of silver and crushed them to pieces. Now that he was a cultivator, the value of mortal items to him was decreasing. He prepared to give these people a small sum of money so that they would not cause any trouble. To give them money, he had to count the number of people here. His pupils suddenly constricted. While doing so, he realized that the number of people was wrong. Although he did not deliberately count back then, he still knew the general number. There should be more than 100 people. Why were there only about 80 at this moment? Left, Sanchi looked at the faint sky and his divine sense spread out. Then, he transformed into a phantom image and landed at the entrance of the valley. Skeletal corpses lay in the grass, some revealing their bones. They had been dead for a period of time. After counting, there were exactly 21 of them. He caught a glimpse of one of them missing a tooth. This was the guy had spoken to. What tell? Sanchi burned the bones and left cursing. Halfway, he suddenly threw out a handful of silver pieces. Under the power of his divine sense, these slivers of silvers landed in everyone's arms in equal amounts. After doing this, he jumped up and landed on a tree, leaving behind afterimages. At this moment, his cultivation level had already reached the normal perfected chi refinement realm. His phantom image was terrifyingly fast. Every step he took covered more than 10 meters, and he could cross a long distance in a few breaths. Moreover, he could walk on leaves and trees. He was even more elegant than the so-called martial arts masters. In terms of martial arts, Sanchi could be said to be very outstanding. He could probably be considered a qualified warrior. Although he did not encounter any danger and benefited from meeting Wan Hei this time, it also highlighted that his cultivation methods were still very poor. There's nothing to learn. I shall cultivate the sword control technique. If I can't win, at least I can slip away faster. Sanchi started learning the specifics of the breeze sword control technique as he traveled with the phantom image technique. The principle of the sword control technique was to use true energy to communicate with the flying sword, and use the power of the flying sword to kill enemies or fly. It was a method that relied on external objects. He took out a normal flying sword that he had obtained from looting the corpses. This thing was only a foot long and belonged to the lowest level of Dharma artifacts. It could not grow larger, but to step on it and fly was not a problem. After injecting true energy into it, the flying sword trembled. The runes on it lit up and trembled as they floated up. How magical! Isn't this equivalent to a drone in the technological world? Sanchi formed a hand seal and controlled the flying sword with his divine sense. The latter swayed and danced around him. His mental strength far exceeded the chi refinement realm, so it was very easy for him to control the flying sword. Not long after, the flying sword danced nimbly around him. I should be able to step on it. Sanchi was no longer pointing at the leaves on the opposite side but at his feet now. However, as he stepped on the flying sword and stomped on it, this caused it to sink. Then, he wobbled and fell onto the tree. Steady. Sanchi's hands formed a seal, and wisps of true energy surged out of his body into the flying sword to act as an energy source. At the same time, the true energy condensed into one with the flying sword. He managed to accurately control the direction of the sword with his thoughts, and finally stopped in midair. Let's go. With a low shout, the flying sword shone brightly and shot into the sky with him. Wow, I can finally fly. Just as Sanchi was feeling happy, he lost control of his flying sword and fell. With a boom, he broke a tree as he descended.